in full disclosure, is not my presentation. I did not make it. It is actually a horticulture agent in Christian County that made this presentation, and it was on our virtual program series that UK put on. It's called Horticulture Webinar Wednesdays. It's a great series. If y'all want to check that out, it's on YouTube. Really, really great. And I will send out actually his recorded version of this presentation in an email to Rhonda so y'all can watch it back if you want to. But I just love this presentation. I thought it applied so much to what we're doing here. And the way that he talked about it honestly inspired me a lot too. So we will go ahead and start. Okay, so edible landscaping. Let me see if it'll focus it better. So edible landscaping is the use of food-producing plants in your residential landscape. And this can include, obviously your fruit and nut trees, berry bushes, vegetables, herbs, your traditional garden plants, flowers, vines, that type of thing. So why should we landscape with edibles? It kind of gives you a variety to a residential conventional landscape. So you think of like evergreen bushes. A lot of people have boxwoods in their yard. I'm not throwing off on boxwoods. I have those in my yard too. But traditionally we have things in our landscape that we can't really eat or that don't give us any kind of benefits in that way. So this kind of breaks that up and allows you to put some more things in that you can eat, as well as for pollinators too. And if you have land space issues, this gives you an option of gardening at your home without actually having to have a traditional giant garden space. This also provides you obviously your own homegrown fruits and vegetables, which is great. You can control the quantity, kind of pesticides you use. Obviously, if you garden in a small space, you don't need as much of anything. You can increase the food security of your household. Again, you have fruits, vegetables, that type of thing. You save on your grocery bills. If you grow enough of something, it is going to save you some money. You can grow unusual varieties that are not available in stores. So say if you want a certain type of greens, if you want a certain type of fruit that they don't have in your regular store, you can grow that at your house. So that's a huge benefit. It also gets you outside. It's a great hobby. If you enjoy this type of thing, you can do it pretty much all year round with edible landscaping. So I don't know if you can see those pictures really good. Is this edible landscaping? Kind of. It is basically a full-fledged garden in front of someone's house. So that is a type of edible landscaping. Of course, this is 100% edible. It's mostly a vegetable garden that's grown in the front yard. It looks really pretty. It's really nice. So if you have the kind of space to devote to that, then I think that's a great option. But this picture is actually from a website that's called the 10th Acre, I believe it's the 10th Acre Farm. And he does actually edible landscaping on his entire property. He's converted it. So really edible landscaping, when we kind of think of that, is incorporating edible things in with your more traditional landscaping elements. So in here he has some Swiss chard. He has bell peppers growing around his flowers there. He has some sage, chives. He has strawberries, peppermint, black and red currant bushes. So all of this is kind of mixed in with his natural landscape plants. So you can grow a lot of things together in one place. And then that's another example of it. He has fig trees, rhubarb, carrots, onions kind of scattered in around his flowers and shrubs. He's got Swiss chard again, serviceberry bushes. He's got a lot of things incorporated here into a traditional landscape so that it looks pretty and, adds value to his property.
Smells wonderful.
Yes, that's another plus.
Did you notice we had the basil in our flower garden
Yes.
out front? So
Yes, excellent example. There is basil growing out here in a flower bed. So, it's really, you can get pretty things that are also edible.
And that would work really good for me. I live on a hillside, so I have been practicing trying to put some of those plants around so I can grow something.
Yes.
Because I couldn't have a garden. So, and the plants look beautiful out there.
Yeah, it adds a lot to your property. So he has given a lot of examples of things that you like that you can maybe plant an alternative to. So if you like something that has pink blossoms, like the Kwanzaa cherry tree, he has added a picture of a crabapple because it has pink blossoms. It blooms out really pretty. We all know how pretty apple trees are. And you can also eat the fruit that comes off of a crabapple. And lots of people love Japanese maples in their yard. I see tons of people grow those. They are very pretty. So if you like that kind of leaf shape and that kind of color, a good option for that is the black elderberry, which also has lacy black leaves. It's very pretty. You can also eat the fruit off of that. If you like bright red colors in the fall, burning bush is another popular one that has good fall color. You can do blueberries. They also turn red in the fall. They look really pretty. And you can eat blueberries. Blueberries are delicious. If you like first blossoms of the season, so everybody knows forsythia, it's the Easter bush. It comes out, it's usually the first thing you see that blooms out in the spring. So you can actually plant a cornelian cherry dogwood, which I didn't know this existed until I watched this presentation. But apparently it puts off a cherry-like fruit. It kind of tastes like cherries, and it actually blooms earlier than the forsythia. So you will have the first blooms if you grow one of these dogwood trees. There are also edible flower alternatives, which a lot of people know some of these. And then he's also got some tomatoes, peppers, herbs, that type of thing in there. He's got perennials, annuals. Perennials are asparagus. A lot of people grow those. It takes a while to get good production from asparagus, but once you do, I mean, it's there for a very long time. Blackberries do really well on a trellis. You can eat daylilies. I don't know if y'all knew that.
Didn't know that.
I didn't really know that.
Didn't know that.
Apparently you can. Fennel, mint, raspberry, rhubarb, rosemary, sage, all this stuff comes back year after year. I know that I've been to a lot of olive gardens where they have the big rosemary plants outside, like the bushes. They smell so good when you walk by them, and they're perennials, and they look just like an ornamental bush, but you can eat rosemary because it's an herb.
Now, I've always heard hostas are edible.
I
in
have
the
heard
spring.
that too.
That in Japan, they don't
Yes.
grow them for a plant. But
Mhm.
you pick them when the shoot comes up, like asparagus. I
Yep.
swore I was going to do it this year, and I forgot.
Yep. We have some in our beds at the office, hostas that put the shoot up. So yeah, lots of options for annuals and perennials. And then this is kind of what, I mean, I do this at my house. I grow herbs as kind of ornamentals and edible things because I love to have herbs always. In this picture here, they have some borders lined with herbs. They have some in the middle, so it looks like a really nice landscape. The pot in the middle is Thai basil. It forms that really pretty, like reddish purple flower. And then there's some terracotta pots that look really nice with herbs in them, so you can grow like some nice looking herbs in pots, and they kind of almost look like flowers or traditional landscape stuff. And then you can grow lots of different colors of lettuces. They make really good borders. So there's some red lettuce in here, which that's more of a traditional, like a raised bed garden, but it looks really pretty and nice in there. And then I just love this picture of the children's garden at the Arboretum. It's in Kentucky. They have them really laid out nice. They're raised beds, so they almost look like flower beds. So if you want to do something that fancy, you can certainly do that too. So you can add color, not just from blooms of flowers. So this here is rhubarb that has that really bright reddish pink stalk on it. Swiss chard looks a lot like that too. So you can incorporate that into your flowers. It adds some nice little color. You can eat the stalks of rhubarb. I don't think you can eat the leaves. Not sure on that. If you have a fence, you can trellis some blueberries, and that makes a really nice, pretty trellising, vining thing along your fence. And then obviously you can eat blackberries, so those are delicious, we all know. And then there are edible ground covers. So like we talked about, lettuce adds a good low growing, if you sprinkle it in beneath your flowers. You can do mustard greens, kale. I actually have seeds for those things in those bags. Nasturtiums are an edible flower. You can do prickly pear cactus, which is a perennial, and strawberries are really low growing, and then thyme as well. And then those are also perennials. So this is an example of lettuce growing as a border. That's red lettuce that's planted along underneath there. Obviously it's not going to last forever, so you'll have to reseed it, but still I think it looks really nice as a border and you can eat it. And these are nasturtiums, so they bloom out really pretty. I think they're mostly orange and yellow. I don't know if they come in other colors or not, but you can eat those. And they're more of like a vining type of flower. Strawberries are what is planted in here. It looks like it's around a tree. So not really, you think, a traditional way to grow strawberries, but they will pretty much, they're a pretty hardy crop. I think they'll grow in pretty much anything. But I had never thought about that until I saw this presentation, and now I'm considering planting strawberries underneath my trees.
I'm considering that too, because I have this big circle out front of
Yes.
it that Mom had planted like irises and
Mhm.
things.
That would be a good,
Awesome to have.
a good thing.
Yeah.
edible vines. We all know pole beans are edible. You can do grapes, if that's something you want to take care of. And grapes are a little finicky sometimes, but they are really pretty. Nasturtiums again, and then something like a passion flower.
What can you do with passion flower?
Honestly, not sure.
Okay.
It forms the passion fruit, I know, so you can eat that. The flower itself, I'm really not sure about.
Yeah, I've got some wild out there on the
Do
farm.
you?
Yeah, unless Joel's cut it down with hay, so, you know.
Yeah. Has it ever fruited out or anything?
Oh, yeah.
It has. I know the fruit's supposed to be really good. Honestly, I've never tried passion fruit. Or maybe I have, but this one is a maypop, which I had also never heard of. But it forms that really cool looking flower, and you can grow it vertically, so it's like a vine type of plant. You can put these pointy things. I honestly don't know what this is either, but it's like a teepee structure for pole beans, and it has that little basket weaver on the bottom. There are tons of structures that you can grow pole beans on that look really nice. And then edible shrubs, like we talked about, blueberries are edible. You can have black and red currants, elderberry, fig, gooseberry, Nankin cherry. Edible trees, we all know apple trees. They bloom out really pretty. Cherry trees are the same way. The Cornelian cherry dogwood again. Coosa dogwood, which is also something I never heard of, but apparently it fruits off and you can eat those too. Pawpaws, those are really popular. Good fruit. They're like a tropical fruit that's kind of a mix of a banana and a mango is what I've heard. Peaches, persimmons, plums, service berries, these are all things that we can actually grow in our area, and we get the benefit of the fruit from those.
I saw a persimmon tree the other day and it is loaded.
Really?
Yes.
Those are really good.
I can't wait to open one up, see what kind of winter we're gonna have.
Yeah, because you can tell from the seeds, can't you?
Yep.
Yep. So when you're thinking about doing an edible garden, you do need to consider some basic things. If you're picking something out of a catalog, a lot of times they'll list things that are in certain hardiness zones. You can supposedly grow it in your hardiness zone. A lot of things though that are more tropical don't really like our fluctuations in weather. So they might grow well in our general temperature range, but where our springs are, they get super cold, then they warm up, and super cold, then they warm up. Sometimes that affects them whenever they're naturally supposed to bloom. So just kind of keep that in mind whenever you pick something out. Soil pH is another thing. So something like blueberries, if you want to grow blueberries, those are acid-loving plants. So they want a pH usually between 5 and 5.5. So just keep that in mind that you can't necessarily plant blueberries directly in your soil without adding some kind of sulfur to that to make it more acidic. Or you can get a soil test and see what your soil is looking like, and we can tell you what to add to it. You probably need good drainage for anything edible. They don't necessarily like wet feet, so keep that in mind too. Put it in a good area where it gets good drainage. You probably want to have a water source close by too, just like you would with a garden, because you are going to have to water them pretty regularly. And most of these things do need full sunlight, at least 6 hours a day. So try to consider that wherever you plant this stuff. You're going to need space to grow these things in, so keep those spacing requirements in mind. And then take advantage of your microclimates on your property. So that means something like if you have a spot in your yard that gets more sun versus another spot. I mean, everybody has those spots where there's a spot in your yard where the snow is the last to go. So maybe something wouldn't do so well over there if it likes really full sun and a lot of heat versus maybe something that likes a little bit more shade. You can put it maybe in that area. So kind of experiment with that a little bit. And then he has a list of all these ideas, more and more ideas. You can do pots of herbs on your patio. You can do cherry tomatoes in a window box, which works out really well. Also in a hanging basket. You can do a grape arbor, which looks really nice and pretty. Include flowers in your salad, so you can grow edible flowers to add variety to your salad greens. Eat your daylilies, it says. Plant a fruit tree in the corner of your yard so that you get tons of fruit. I would also maybe be mindful of where you plant your fruit trees, because if you don't want to eat all the fruit, it is going to fall in your yard. So you're going to have to pick it up or do something with it, or just leave it for deers to eat. Plant colorful pepper varieties. So peppers are actually really pretty. There's tons of pretty varieties of peppers you can grow with your flowers. You can tuck those short growing things in among your taller things. So lettuces, radishes are good things. Short-lived greens in your flower beds. You can replace a barberry hedge with gooseberries. Put basil in with coleus in a planter, which I never thought of that, and I'm going to do that because I love to grow coleus.
That's what we have out here.
Yes. Grow chives around your mailbox. That's a suggestion. Train raspberries to grow up your fence. So there's tons and tons and tons of ideas for things that you can do for edible landscaping. So, I mean, I love this because it is an option for people that don't have a lot of space and still want to maintain their landscaping without ripping it all up and making their whole yard a garden. And then also, you know, it kind of helps you replace a traditional lawn. I mean, I'm not throwing off on traditional lawns, but if you plant edible things in your yard, that's less grass for you to mow. So that's a win to me. But yeah, that's his whole presentation. I will send this link out to Rhonda because he added a little bit more into this than I did. I think I took out a couple of slides, but he has some really good ideas on that. And their whole series is also really, really great.
That was very awesome, Tracy. It's really got my mom thinking.
Yeah, it did mine
about
too.
it. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
who I did my master gardening class.
Really?
Yeah, that's where I went to.
He's
master
great,
gardening.
yeah. And there's a publication on that table that he listed a bunch of edible landscaping plants. He and John Strain, who is actually our fruit specialist at UK, came up with that list. So they did a great job on coming up with stuff that we can grow and incorporate.
I like
And I
that
think-
window.
Oh, yeah, isn't that pretty?
Yeah, it looks really.
Just open your window, get your.
I love window boxes, especially for herbs. I think it's so great.
Well, that's what I was thinking too. Like I said, I live on a hill and I have a lot of shade. So I've been practicing over the past few years of maybe I can grow some things. And I tried growing tomatoes on my bank. The tomato plants came up looking awesome, big stalk tomatoes came on. And then the bottom of them, it wasn't something you took a bite, but it almost looked like that, you know, and they just, they wouldn't do anything else. And I tried squash and zucchini plants around my back patio as this, and they came up and looked beautiful, real pretty, and then it's like they were stunning. So I've still got to practice and see what I can get rare because of my shade and sun, and but this is real inspiring.
And I mean, there's lots of plants too that they do well in partial shade, or you know, you just gotta play around with it, I guess. Because I have a lot of shade at my house too, so I totally understand where you're coming from on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, just experiment though and see what you like. But unless y'all have any questions, I'm done.
Now, what'd you say to put in with your, Coleus's
Basil.
basil, okay.
Which it makes sense because it is a similar shaped plant to coleus, so I think it would complement it really well. Yeah, there's lots of pretty kinds of basil too. There's like purple basil, which that's what's out here, isn't it? Purple basil, green basil, Thai basil, there's all kinds of stuff.
My apple trees are blooming. My apple trees is full bloom.
I've
It's
heard,
bloom right now.
yeah,
Yes.
I've seen a lot of people across East Tennessee that have, in the Master Gardeners groups, that have been talking about their apple trees are blooming.
My
Yeah.
golden delicious,
Mhm.
it's been full bloom.
I don't know what that's gonna mean for next year, do you?
I don't either, but that's the first time I ever seen them bloom
That's strange.
at this time of year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they should be going into dormancy instead of blooming.
Instead of putting blooms out,
Mhm.
I said, that's pretty odd.
Yeah, it is.